Brr. Just did a bit of a hike to some trail cameras. Man, oh man, I got sweated up. Now the sun's going down, I'm getting cold. So I'll make this kind of quick. But what I was thinking today, I've been thinking a lot of recently, is to pass on some helpful tips to people who are actually curious. And those are tips about our sixth sense, you know, our gut instincts, our intuition, and possibly how to hone your intuition, your gut skills, possibly how to hone your skills with your intuition, your gut instincts, and get in tune with them and follow them, because it's actually a lot more important than your average person stresses when they bring that topic up. And I think a lot of people are asking me about, you know, especially with some of these topics lately on this channel. A lot of concerned people are messaging me and asking me what to do, or should I be scared, or should I do this, what about that? And they're emailing about stories, not so comfortable encounters, experiences they've had in the woods, and they're trying to make sense of it. So let's start off first. I'm just going to mention some things about our sixth sense, our gut instincts, and what I feel I've learned about them in my lifetime. And hopefully I can pass on some of these points to you guys and do with it as you will. Maybe it'll help some of you, maybe it won't, but I'm pretty sure it'll help. But what I've grown to learn is I am certain that we all have that sixth sense. I'm certain that normally before these modern times of technology and control and mass manipulation, leading and dumbing down, I'm pretty certain that we are born with our sixth sense, and we are almost intentionally, possibly, are led to not be in tune with our sixth sense and go with our gut instincts, okay? Because if you do go with your gut instincts and your intuition in life and follow it true 100%, you're going to win. But you're also not going to be controlled very well or led. That's a fact. And, you know, I look back to my childhood, and you look back and you experience I look back to my childhood when I was a kid. And one of the first times I look back and I know when my sixth sense, my true intuition, was screaming at me, and I didn't quite know what it was at the time, because obviously we don't have any true mentors when we're children anymore telling us and teaching us to stay in tune with our sixth sense, right? I never did. But here's an example of my sixth sense when I was a child, and one of the first times it alarmed me and gave me the clear warnings, which came to be true later in life, was sadly, unfortunately, my mother had remarried this guy, and still today he's probably one of the top two or three true dark evil beings I've ever come across in my lifetime. But I'll never forget the very first time I came across this person and shared space with this person, and it was absolutely innocently. I didn't know this person, didn't know of this person, never met this person ever before, and never had heard of this person being spoke of. And it was after dinner. After dinner, you go outside and you play with your friends, go play lacrosse or hockey up at the outdoor rink up there, up the road. And I'm coming home, and this guy was on the porch, I guess saying goodbye to my mom, must come over for a quick visit, whatever's going on. And I'm coming up the steps, and take mind, as far as I know, I've never been exposed to a dark energy or a dark being ever before this time. I was a young boy. But I'll never forget, every single hair on my body stood on end. I was absolutely alarmed. I've never felt so threatened. You know, it was one of the times I've actually felt being truly, truly threatened to my core. And I'll never forget that moment. It was instant, boom. It was in my gut. It was my intuition, it was my sixth sense was screaming at me that this person right here was absolutely threatening. Absolutely, to the core. My core was screaming at me. And sure enough, later on in life, it came true. And that person, turns out, it was one of the most dark, evil people I've ever come across in my entire existence. But that was one of my first times, when I look back in my lifetime, when my intuition, my sixth sense was screaming at me and warning me, you know? And it was true. And yes, for a side note, I did beat his ass later in life, so it all worked out in the end. Anyway, carrying along. Another time when I look back at being not in tune with, but when my sixth sense was really drilling me, was another time I'll use it as a hunting experience. So all you hunters can as well possibly relate to this, or maybe start focusing on other aspects of yourself while you're hunting, and it'll help benefit you in a way. But I was bow hunting. I was 17 or 18 years old, and I knew of this great big huge monster old buck, and I caught a glimpse of him in the thick timber one time. I jumped him in his bed. So I kept on being persistent, hunting that area every few days, and I'd go through there as slow as a slug, you know, with my bow, still hunting in thick brush, trying to get up on this deer. And I didn't even know if he was there, and he would have been laying in his bed, and he was past his prime. He was a big old gnarly wiry buck, and I went through there I don't know how many different times through the fall, and then finally this one particular day, your senses are on fire, right? You're outside, you're in nature, you're in the real world, you're relying on your senses. And back then I was still young, and probably my sixth sense was probably a little more alert to me at that time, possibly. And I'm slipping along, and all of a sudden, I wasn't looking to either side, I just knew it. I knew I was being stared at. I knew it. I'll never forget that moment. And I slowly looked to my right, and there was that great big buck laying down looking at me. I think he was probably 12 or 15 yards away from me. And I slowly drew my bow back, and I got him, actually. And if I can find the picture, I'll throw it up here, but this is the buck that I got that day. But I'll never, ever forget that, because it was so weird. It was just such a weird thing, being so young and being aware that I was walking along that trail, absolute intense, going as slow as I could, stalking, and I knew I was being stared at from something right there. I knew it. And that, I'll never forget that. Then, moving along later in life, when I was a little older, I was around 26 or 27 years old, and again I'm hunting, and again I'm still hunting, and I am quite a ways in the interior British Columbia, mountain hunting for mule deer, and I got dropped off from the top of this mountain, got doubled up there on a quad, and I was gonna dive into the timber and still hunt my way down for the whole day, down the face of that big mature timber mountain, and I'll never forget it. I'm walking along, I'm going through the timber, and then I'm going straight down through steep timber into this dip. There's a dip in the bottom full of blowdowns. And I got down to the bottom of that hole, and I'm literally up to my waist in all the settled snow in this dip, struggling, flailing, trying to get through this crap. And all of a sudden I started feeling very, very vulnerable. I just felt vulnerable. I felt creepy. My skin's crawling, the hair on the back of my neck standing up, and I'm looking above me, and I got my rifle, I've got one jacked in, and I'm just feeling real threatened. I'm looking up above me, and it got so bad, I actually yelled out, F-O, F out of here! Like, leave me alone. Whatever it was. And keep in mind, at this point in life, I had already ran into one of those creepy, big, hairy bastards years earlier, so that's always in the back of my mind, too. Didn't know what it was, but it creeped the shit out of me. And then I got out of that dip and carried on for my day. And then the very next day, I got dropped off again, and I more wanted to get straight to that high point up on the bank above me the next day and see if there's any prints. And sure enough, there was the prints from about 7 or 8 wolves were up on that rim, pacing back and forth, looking down on me. I couldn't quite see them where I was, but my sixth sense picked up on that pack of wolves that were above me they were probably 20 meters above me, 25 meters above me. But my sixth sense was completely screamed at me that something is up on that bank staring down at me, okay? And then, what else? Another time was my sixth sense, your intuition, your gut feeling. All through my life, I have relied on my gut instincts. I believe I've come more in tune with my gut instincts, my sixth sense, when it comes to making a lot of decisions, whether it be in business or relationships, or where I'm going to go fishing for the day, whether I should go fishing, whether I should go offshore, hunting, solo hunting, when I've been tracking wounded game, grizzly bear hunting, doing dangerous things, getting in a bush plane flight, possibly. All sorts of things. Your intuition, your sixth sense will benefit you directly. You just gotta get in tune with it. And you know what? Every single uber successful person that gives out encouraging talks, every one of them says to follow your gut with every decision you make. Follow your gut, and it is very, very true. You know, for me, I mean, I didn't really have anybody that took interest in me growing up, and I had to basically go through life with trial and error. I've done every dumb thing you can think of, and I think that's an important thing to acquiring, you know, your sixth sense. Well, you have to fail. You have to fail in life to get better. If you're not failing and doing stupid shit, you're not going to learn, and there's nothing to be ashamed of if you do. But getting back to hunting, you know, I was really in tune with this and well through my guiding career, and you know, this is just how it turned out. I went 100% success in my guiding career. You know, not every hunter went home with what they wanted, but every single hunt that I went on, I showed them exactly what they came to find. You know, a lot of guys, the very few people that did go home with nothing, they either missed, or they were looking for a world-class example of a ram as an example, and they saw plenty of legal rams and they went home with nothing. Other than that, I like to think it was my sixth sense, my intuition, that made me make the correct decisions all through my guiding career. So when it comes to keeping you safe and doing the right things when you're either hunting or fishing or backpacking, which I'm slowly getting more focused on, and a lot of your concerns, a lot of your people have been emailing me and asking me what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing, and you're emailing me about some of these encounters you're having that scare the shit out of you. This is all I can offer up for those moments, is if you are going to go fishing or hunting or backpacking or camping or remote, if you're going to a specific patch of timber, up a road, up a trail, and all of a sudden you get that feeling of feeling uneasy, uncomfortable, feeling threatened, possible feeling of dread, whatever you want to call it. If you start feeling uneasy as you're going into a patch of timber, up a valley or up a trail, go with your gut instincts and turn around and leave. Because if you don't leave, you're going against your intuition, you're going against your gut feeling, you're going against possibly your sixth sense, and you are going to lose. You're going to lose. Every single time you hear of anybody that said, well, I had a bad feeling before they lost. You know, one example I like to use of going against your gut feeling, your intuition, your sixth sense, it's like, do you remember that was his name, Timothy Treadway guy, whoever he was, the guy, the ex-drug addict from California that went up to Alaska and hung out with the brown bears and spoke to them like they were his friends and neighbors, and they ended up killing them and eating them. Well, his girlfriend, who he basically forced to go camping with him, she was terrified of bears and she didn't want to be there. Look what happened to her. She went against her gut instincts, her intuition, and she paid the full meal deal price. But that was a fact. It was stated in that documentary. His girlfriend was terrified of being there, terrified of the bears, and didn't want to be there. But she went anyways, and she ended up dying. So that's one other plain example that you guys can all look at of going against your gut instincts, your intuition. And another time I can tell you that I screwed up and ignored my gut instincts. It was one late spring. A friend of mine and I, we were going to go up into this alpine in the coastal mountains of British Columbia. We're going to go up into this alpine bowl through a big burn, and we're going to make a big salt lick and place some trail cameras up there. And he came and picked me up, and I come out and I go, "Did you bring a gun?" And he goes, "What for?" And I'm like, "Okay, whatever," right? As I'm like, it's almost like he's making a point of being the tough guy possibly or whatever, right? It's just like it was almost like a sarcastic, "What for? Nothing's open." You know, I'm like, okay, whatever. And I didn't bring a gun. And that second that I decided not to bring a gun, my stomach just started burning. And that doesn't happen normally for me. I've been in the woods a long time, in many, many days on end. But this particular moment in time, my gut was burning. And sure enough, we went up there, we hiked up there, we took lots of video. That's actually the same day this photograph right here was taken. And sure enough, we are side hilling through the burn, coming back to come out. Then we ran into a sow grizzly bear and her tiny little football-sized furry cub, less than 100 yards, and she started barreling at us, and we were completely unarmed. And thankfully, she stopped and veered off and went back to the cub. But we were in a burn with little trees like that. There's nowhere to hide. There is no way one of us wasn't going to get chewed on, if not both of us, and possibly killed. So that's another time my gut was burning to go back in the house and bring a gun with me that day, and I didn't do it, and I potentially lost everything that day. So, so for all of you who are inquiring, if it's safe to go in the woods, safe to do this, safe to do that, and what do you do about this situation or that situation, or I feel uneasy every time I go here, or I feel uneasy every time I go there. What I strongly suggest to every single one of you is listen to your instincts, listen to your sixth sense, and never, ever, ever argue with it, and don't go against it, all right? If you're camping, you felt fine the whole time hiking into where you're going camping or hunting or fishing, and everything feels cool, cool. But if all of a sudden you start getting the feeling of being absolutely uneasy, you shouldn't be there, possibly something staring at you and you can't see it, your intuition, your sixth sense is screaming, pleading with you to get the hell out of here, I strongly suggest you listen to it and don't question it and act on it immediately and leave. Now, when it comes to many of you people out there who have had something scream at you, or whatever you want to call it, scream at you, roar at you, make some strange sounds in the woods that you're not familiar with, and it absolutely scares the living crap out of you. Obviously, if something's throwing boulders at you or logs, or something's breathing down your neck and if something's walking step for step off to the side with you. If you have something like that happen to you in the timber, in the forest, anywhere, whether or not you're by yourself or somebody else, if you don't leave and you're experiencing that, potentially something real bad's going to happen to you. Let's face it. And but another thing, obviously you can tell from a lot of these people's honest experiences of sharing is 100% of these people who experience those terrifying moments didn't have anything touch them or contact them or hurt them physically, but it scared the living crap out of them. So from what, if you look at that with common sense, especially as a professional hunting guide, if there's anything out there that really wants to harm you or kill you, it's going to do it with stealth and silence. It's not going to warn you, all right? There isn't a predator animal alive that pre-warns its prey, okay? And there isn't a human being alive that warns you it's coming to kill you when there's a killer out there. Anything that really wants to harm you, it's going to stalk you with stealth, and it's going to get the job done, okay? It's not going to throw a stick at you. It's not going to throw a log at you. It's not going to scream at you or make thrashing sounds in the forest or walk noisy beside you step for step. It's not going to do it. Although experiencing that shit is definitely absolutely unnerving. From what I'm gathering, I have a funny feeling, whatever the reason is that those things are happening, is it possibly to save your ass from something a lot worse than just making those sounds? Maybe, possibly, I don't know. There is a possibility that's what's going on, though, unfortunately. So, either way, I don't know. I think it would take one hell of a big set of balls for anybody to ignore those warnings and go forward towards the source of those sounds. I don't know. I have never heard of anybody doing that yet. I haven't a clue what would happen if you did. And but let's face it, there's always the other potential possibility that there's always a possibility that there is some people out there who have heard these sounds and then never come out of the woods to report it to us. There is that possibility, right? Unfortunately, but there's one thing that can be said for sure is there is a lot more going on out here than we're being informed about, and that is the fact. It's the sad fact. It's unfortunate, but there's more people like me that are coming forward to hopefully talk about all the sort of shit going on and get people informed, because it's just something we need to do. But getting back to your sixth sense, your intuition, I strongly urge all of you to try to get more in tune with it. And how do you do that? How do you get more in tune with your sixth sense? obviously living healthy is going to do it for sure. I think, I've found in life for me now at this stage of life, and going with my sixth sense every time it comes up and screams at me, going with my gut instincts, my intuition, it's paid off for me in dividends. At this stage of life now, I'm debt free. I do whatever I want. Nobody controls me. I never married the wrong person. My partner is one of the most kind, sweet, generous people on the planet. And I'm still alive. So those are big indicators for me that I'm following my gut instincts, my intuition. My intuition has paid off large, okay? So if you go, just stop going against your intuition. Stop going against your gut instincts. And I feel what ruins your connection with your gut instincts, what makes you lose is obviously alcohol and drugs that's a direct link to annihilating your gut instincts. I mean, everybody does the wrong thing when they're on alcohol and drugs, or if they overdo it with either one of those two substances for sure. So alcohol and drugs there's two things that will annihilate your gut instincts for sure. Following the lead of people who need something from you, following the lead of people who dictate to you, listening to the wrong people in life, following the wrong people, taking advice from the wrong people, that will fog and kill your gut instincts if you go against your gut instincts and follow certain people or let certain people lead you or take what they're saying as true. That can obviously mess with your gut instincts, and that's usually a strong one. I mean, that's usually a pretty easy one with human beings. You come across some misleading human beings. They give off great indicators, easy indicators for you to see through the bullshit, and we'll probably touch on that a little more later on. What's the best way to get in tune with your sixth sense or your gut instincts? I feel the best way to do that is to spend time alone. Spend time alone out in the real world, away from a screen, whether it be fishing, hiking, hunting, camping, but get out there in the real elements where what our senses are designed for, and get some time alone out there. And rely on yourself. That's a big one, is relying on yourself. The more you can rely on yourself and your senses, you will exercise and enhance your sixth sense and your gut instincts, okay? That's a real great way to do it. But other than that, just eat healthy, stay active, make yourself sweat at least 2 or 3 times a week, and just don't go against your gut instincts, and you're going to start to win. It's going to keep you alive, all right? It's a big one. People that go against their gut instincts, they don't live very long.